Okay. So welcome Richard. I have Richard Marais with me. He came all the way from Manchester, UK, over to India, and he is an expert, I would say, in India, because you've been quite around in India. It's not your first time here, right?
Indeed, not my first trip. Nope, I love it.
There's nothing more to say, so we just venture into this very CANCERCON conference done by the IIT and by the CRRT. And yeah, it's a venue where clinicians come together to meet basic researchers. But I have the feeling that actually a lot of basic researchers are very much involved already with clinicians or working with tumor samples derived from real patients. And the question is, how much is still need to be done that these two major parties join forces in the war on cancer?
I think there are two components to that question. So the first is, is there still space for scientists doing very basic research in cancer? And of course the answer to that has to be yes. We still need to understand the very basic parts of human cancer if we're ready to make any impact into the disease. And then of course there's still plenty of room for clinicians who are really just driving forward the clinical research to try and understand which drugs to give their patients. After all, that is what worries them all day. And then I think the second part is, should those two groups get together? And the answer to that, I think, has to be yes. I don't think it's essential, but I think that actually when you do get the clinicians and the scientists together, you bring together minds that don't think the same but have a common goal. And that's when you start to see the real breakthroughs in clinical medicine, in basic medicine as well, because the scientists have a way of thinking that is enriched by the questions that the clinicians can ask, and the clinicians get enriched by understanding more the basic research. So what we're trying to do at the CRUK Manchester Institute is bring these two groups together, and in our lab meetings we have oncologists, we have surgeons, we have dermatologists coming to our basic science meetings, and they challenge us to think about the disease differently, and we try and help them with how to treat their patients. It's going to speed things up. It's not essential, but it speeds things up.
Yeah, well, I guess you also need, apart from basic scientists and clinicians, all these bioinformaticians or structural biologists, right? So it's a huge enterprise that has to come together, basically, and but still there needs to be a spearhead or the right question asked at the right time, right?
So I think, as well as the bioinformaticians and the structural biologists, there are of course also, the nurses, the tissue collectors, the biobank managers, the data collectors. All of this stuff needs to be collected. So yes, it's a multidisciplinary team, it's a large team, and as long as they have the right common goals, then they will find the way to ask the right questions. When you bring clever people together, they will learn how to ask the right questions of each other.
And they will also overcome their own interests?
I don't think that their own interests, I mean, generally speaking, I find that when you bring these people together, their interests are the patients. And so I think, as long as everybody's interested in the patient, there's plenty to do. There's no reason to worry about, your own interests. You're collaborating with people who don't want to do what you want to do. So there's not going to be any competition. I never want to go into the clinic to treat patients, and I suspect the clinicians I work with don't want to come into my lab and start pipetting reagents. So it's a great opportunity for us to work together. I don't think this is a problem. I think that actually when these teams come together, there's so much to do, and as long as you put the patient at the center of it, then it works and it's easy.
Yeah, I guess that's the main message, right? To not lose or to focus on the patient in the end of the day. Yeah. And your favorite, as I might say, cancer is the cancer of the skin. What triggered you to do most of your research on melanoma of all the cancers that are out there?
So I was a RAF guy. I worked on RAF. We were studying RAF as a paradigm for trying to understand how cell signaling worked. So how was RAF regulated? How did RAF then regulate what the cell did? Those were the questions we were really interested in addressing. And then, of course, Andy Futrell and Mike Stratton discovered that one of the proteins we worked on, BRAF, was mutated in 50% of melanomas. It was a natural progression for me to start working on melanoma. So sure, 13 years ago, I knew very little about melanoma because we didn't really have a reason to do it. And so I would say to the young people out there, follow the science, go where the science takes you, allow it to lead you into new and exciting areas, and that will then allow you to make new and exciting discoveries.
Well, I think that's a wonderful closing remark already. And with this, I thank Richard Marais a lot. Thanks for being with us, and goodbye.
Thank you.